good morning. Welcome to Hobby Evolution, episode 1372. It is Sunday. I'm not wearing my Bears hoodie this morning. I thought about it. It was laying there ready for Sunday football. Probably throw it on later. But I'm like, you know what? Last NFL regular season Sunday of 2024. Now into 2025. I'm glad it's ending. I'm glad it's ending. Here I thought Bears are going to win 10 games so long ago. And still sitting on 4 wins. It's quite the conundrum today as the Bears fight for draft pick position as opposed to playoff positioning. Do I want them to win because I'm a fan and it's your arch rival? Although, is it really a rivalry when the Packers just kick their ass every year? Or do I want them to lose against their rival and go to a better draft pick? Hopefully. Here's how bad the NFL is this year. The Bears have lost, 11 games in a row? Yeah, 11 games in a row. 4-13, right? No, 4-12. They're 4-12 right now. So they've lost, I think, 10 games in a row. I think that's right. Either way, they've lost 10 or 11 games in a row. Only 4 wins, and yet they still hold just the 9th overall pick in the NFL draft because there are 8 teams worse than them. That's how pathetic the NFL is. So I think the best they can do with a loss today in draft pick positioning, a loss today, and then combined with wins by all of the other teams ahead of them, the best they can do is 5th pick. But I think the Browns, I think, were one of those teams ahead of them. They lost. They got blown out last night. So we're scoreboard watching. But I'm just kind of like, here, I want the Bears to win. They're playing the Packers. Go Bears. But I'm resigned to the fact that they're only going to have the 9th overall pick and hopefully get an offensive lineman with that pick and an offensive lineman with their 2nd round pick. So bad news, Bears. I had a little bit of the I basically watched sport. I did a bunch of shipping in the morning yesterday. And then my wife had some showings and had a listing appointment, locked it down, had a couple showings in the afternoon. And so I around lunchtime, I went upstairs and just Ernie and I turned on some college a lot of sports. I did list. I did a lot of couch listing yesterday. Was watching the North Carolina Notre Dame game. That was a good game. Good college basketball game. So I watched that, and then I threw something, and then I think something random. And then my Western Illinois Leathernecks played Korean Cardboard's alma mater, Dan's alma mater, Eastern Illinois, battle for the axe, Western versus Eastern. So I had that game on. My Leathernecks, of course, won. So watch that, and then I turned the NFL game on, which I can't even remember. Was it Ravens Browns? Yeah, because then I think it was Steelers Bengals. So watch that game. Hey, you know what else I did? I bought some steaks this week, and I'm like, I'm gonna grill, and even though it's like 5 degrees outside, I'm gonna grill. And but I'm like, I want to marinate the steak. I don't want just steaks. Plus my wife isn't a big fan of non-marinated steaks. Like if they're marinated and everything, she's cool with it. But so I wanted a marinade, and usually I go with like a marinade, which I guess Marinade is all liquid, right? If it's dry, it's a rub. So I ended up going with a dry rub. All right. So my wife is a big fan of the Barefoot Contessa. And my wife always says if it's a recipe from the Barefoot Contessa, she's never gone wrong. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna marinate this steak with a marinade recipe from the Barefoot Contessa. And I found one, but it had, I think, I don't know what it was all in it, but it's like, nah, I don't want to do this. So I found a dry rub from the Barefoot Contessa, which included coffee and brown sugar. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Let's try it. So it was coffee grounds. So I did not use mushroom coffee. That's expensive. I'm not going to use that in a dry rub. So I used Dunkin', my regular coffee, Dunkin'. So I used that, brown sugar. What else was in there? Salt, too much salt. Oh, too much salt. And I should have known as I was putting this dry rub together. And garlic powder and a little bit of black pepper. There was also in the recipe, there was also like red pepper flakes and like maybe chipotle powder. My wife does not do spice. Like my wife doesn't even do black pepper. So I just put a little bit of black pepper in, not the full amount. So I did not follow the recipe. I did know as I was putting this rub together, like this is way too much salt, even and I had the right amount of steaks. So do this rub. The coffee, actually, you didn't even taste the coffee. Like people are like, ew, coffee, which was kind of my first reaction, was like, what the fuck? Coffee grounds in a but hey, it's Barefoot Contessa. So you didn't even really taste the coffee. You didn't taste the brown sugar either, but you damn sure well tasted the salt. Oh my God, overpowering. It reminded me, and I don't think I've ordered steak from this restaurant again. It's a really good restaurant here downtown Madison. It's called Sardine. And they have something on their menu, steak frites. And it's until the last time, which was my father-in-law was still alive. So this would have been 2000, at latest 2017. And I remember getting the steak frites and it was like super salty. And I'm like, ugh, I don't take anything back. Like I just suck it up and like, ugh. But it was like, I don't know. Chefs love salt. I hate salt. So, and I should have known, my own fault. I was already not following the recipe by doing less black pepper and no pepper flakes and chipotle. So I should have known better. And maybe maybe all of that pepper would have counteracted the salt. But oh, I took that first bite and I'm like, this is going to be good. So, hey, live and learn. Sometimes you got to find out. It could have been the greatest dry rub I've ever had. It was not. So live and learn. We'll try it again. It was fucking cold though out there grilling. So that was what I did last night. I did list some new auctions in my eBay store, 99centcards.com. Check it out. In the buy it now section, which I did add more buy it nows yesterday. A bunch of player lots went in. I think I put up a lot of player lots on Friday and yesterday, Saturday. So I think I'm going to go back to singles here over the next few days, just kind of balance that out. So check that out, 99centcards.com. Check out those player lots. And if you buy 7 or more player lots, you'll still save 25% off at checkout. There's some good player lots. There were, I added some 25 count player lots, a bunch of 8 count player lots. So some good stuff in there. 99centcards.com. Added some auctions. I think about 75 went live last night. I think I'm around 500 as I scale up to 1,000 auctions per week. I've got to be careful this week because I'm going to be gone for 3-4 days in 2 weeks for Cubs convention. So I've got to plan accordingly. Like as I was listing these auctions yesterday, and I'm like, oh shit, am I going to be out of town next weekend? No, I'm not. So I don't want to do 400 auctions in a day when I'm going to be out of town, because that would not be good. So check out those auctions, 99centcards.com. About 500 are live right now. I've got about 17. So what I did last night, I had some, I went through, I didn't have a batch set aside. I've got some random batches, but I still haven't got to that organization level where it's like, oh, here's my auctions for the next week. Haven't done that. But what I have been doing is some stale inventory, but like decent stale inventory that should sell for 99 cents. Now, I know not everything is going to sell for a bid at 99 cents, but I do hope most of it does. So I went through and found some stuff in my eBay inventory, listed that at auction, and then I went back and I looked at my what's ending before it flips another month, and I get that's taken out of my buy it now listings for the month. Okay, and I just looked this morning. I've got about 17 or 18, 1,800 items that are going to flip today. They're going to end today and flip. So looking at those, and I'll go through, and tonight we'll flip some over. So I'm at the stage where in my business, I'm right in the middle of year 3, right? 2021 to 2022, 2022 to 2023. Oh shit, I'm going into year 4. I'm like into year 4 already. So I'm in the execution phase. So, and part of this execution phase is, as I approach 60,000 buy it now listings, I've got to be a little more before I scale up to an anchor store. Now it's where strategy comes in, and I've got to employ some strategic measures where I don't want to just, okay, I'm at 60,000. It's time to do an anchor store to get to 100,000. I want more auctions and more free listings. No. I want to make sure I'm moving inventory. And it's like, okay, a lot of this shit's not selling, so let's try to sell it. Goes to auction. If it doesn't sell at auction, we're going to throw it away. Not literally, but we'll just toss it out of the eBay store. So part of the execution phase is just minding my store and not ignoring it, because part of the growth period was like, let's list. Now we get to the execution phase. We're a few years in. We're 3.5 years in. Now it's time to execute, take down some of those Aristides Aquinos, which probably, I think a lot of those 20-some Aristides Aquinos are going to stick around in my eBay store. But as I can monitor, and part of that monitoring is looking through. And so here, let's, I've got my page up right now. I'm going to share it with you. Here's my ending today. So these listings are ending today. They're gonna renew basically. So this here's a perfect example of kind of monitoring my inventory, my existing inventory, where up until now I've just been ignoring it for the most part. Every once in a while I'll catch, oh, that's way overpriced. I listed that on Bowman release day. It's not a $20 card, it's a $2 card. So here was a good example right at the top. First Bowman, AJ Vukovic, Diamondback lot. 105 of his first Bowman cards from 2020. His name wasn't in the title. And I'm like, well, shit, no wonder there's not been any views. Well, it's also AJ Vukovic, but I think he's still a high-end prospect for the Diamondbacks. Don't quote me on that. But so basically I went in, and instead of adjusting the price, right now it's at $40, which is a little less than 40 cents per card. Instead of adjusting that price, I put his name on the title. And I also filled in a lot of the item specifics. Like none of the item specifics were filled out. So I went in, since I was already in there changing the title. Now, it's also a $40 listing. It's not a $1.75 listing. I'm not going to go through my $1.75 listings and make sure all of these little item specifics are in there. But this was an item that I listed from my couch, from my phone. So it's not, it wasn't filling in all the blanks from like Car Dealer Pro does. So I'm going to go through and at some point today, I'm going to look at my ending today. And so here's a Macho Man Randy Savage. This was part of a lot find 750, little high. This is the 89 version, not the common 1990 classic version. So this card has a little premium. Same with Hercules. And so I've got a lot of these. If I sell these at 99-cent auction, they're going to sell for 99 cents, but maybe drop the price on these specific cards. Have some lot, Philip Rivers lot, Jalen Rieger lot. So some of these, like here's a Chrome Auto, Patrick Mazeika. These are perfect examples of auctions. So like an auto of Patrick Mazeika, Sky Blue Ryan Holgate, Tanner Murray auto. So these are great candidates for auction. Brewer Hicklin Sapphire, or I don't think that's Sapphire. It says it's numbered to 99. So I've got to go check that one out. It's either a Sapphire not numbered, or if it's a blue refractor numbered to 99. I think that's actually a blue. So a lot of this stuff I'll flip to auction tonight. Some AEW, and here's another example. Gold parallel AEW cards. These have been in my store since 2021 or 2022. And these are probably $1.50 cards, at release. Those were fine. I sold a bunch of these gold parallels at release for $5, but they're not $5 anymore. So I just want to monitor these. Here's a first Bowman Mason win. This, I'm surprised that hasn't sold at $3.50. So that's something I'm now doing is monitoring existing listings, checking out, okay, why hasn't this sold? It's been 3 years. Well, it's not $5 anymore. That's why it hasn't sold. It's a $1.75 card. So I might just go in and adjust pricing on some, and others will be flipped over to auction status. All right. There was something else I wanted to talk about, but we'll get to it after we check the chat. What was I going before? Because otherwise, once I get into the chat, I'm going to totally forget. Must not be important because I can't remember now. Something that I felt was topical. If I look around, sometimes it'll trigger, but it's not triggering anything. All right, we're going to the chat. Sunday Funday, what's up, Scott? Good morning. Jody's in the house. Good morning. SoCal guy is here. Good morning. John's in the house. Bye week for the Eagles today. Donald Davis is here. Good morning. Orlando's here. What's happening? Orlando was on Hobby Hotline. If you didn't catch it live yesterday, good show yesterday. Oh, maybe that was it. Talking about the National. I had some thoughts, but I've shared those thoughts before, so we'll get into it. Merle, from 4-2 to 4-13, the Bears. Word says, who looks better than Buffalo? The Bills. Johnny M says, good morning. Hopefully the Jets can lose today, and it will be Rodgers' last game as a Jet. I kind of hope it's Rodgers' last game in the NFL, and he goes off to his black space, and we never hear from Aaron Rodgers again. That's kind of what I hope. Zach is here. Can we please go back to yesterday and answer LRS's comment? I'd be lying if I told you the lack of compliance on his request did not create a difficult night of sleep. Loyal listeners deserve more. John says, you'll need to worry more about your coach than your draft slot. If you don't have the right guy developing your players, then draft slot matters not. Of course. Yeah, we've got a new coach. It goes higher than just the coach. We need new ownership, but that's not going to happen. We need a new general manager because I don't believe in Ryan Poles as the GM, but I don't think that's going to matter because I think he's sticking around. But we do know there's going to be a new head coach. But I guess I don't have a say in any of this. I can't control the draft slot. I can't control who they're going to hire as the head coach. The Bears are going to bear. They fucked up so many coach hirings, both head coach and coordinators, that I don't have faith that the Chicago Bears will hire a competent head coach. And here we go again. Just going to be another 5 years of suckfest. Merle says, Skull. Stuke says, good morning. Windy day in Oklahoma. A good day to watch football. Merle says, Josie got me up to do some shipping. I told her it was only 3 orders. Unicorn Cupcake, good morning. Zach says, college basketball does nothing for me. I love college hoops. I usually take December off from watching, unless it's Western Illinois. And then I'll up here in January. Now I'll watch Western games, depending on my status. But I love college basketball is probably, for sports to watch, to actually watch, college basketball is my favorite. More so than baseball. Certainly more so than football. More so than the NBA. I'd probably rank it. College basketball would be number 1. Baseball would be number 2. NFL number 3. And then those are my top 3. And outside of that, like, I really don't care. Like, college football doesn't do anything for me. NBA does nothing for me. College baseball does nothing for me. John says the coffee marinade sounds horrific. You know, the coffee didn't make it horrific. The salt did. If I would have done less salt, it would have been okay. Like, it wouldn't have been something I would go crazy about, but it would have been much better than what it was. The salt that ruined it. Stuke says we'll be in Frisco Monday night. 39 degrees forecast for the championship. Frisco. So that must be the FCS national championship game. Who's in the FCS title game? It's probably a couple Missouri Valley teams, I would imagine. North Dakota State, South Dakota State. Who is in the FCS national championship game in Frisco, Texas? My Leathernecks came close a couple years. It's been a while. Montana State, North Dakota State versus Montana State. I believe they're the Bobcats of Montana State. I think the last time the Leathernecks came close was 03, 04, somewhere in that. I think they got to the semis against Western Kentucky. Where are we at? Red lights here. Good morning. Marinate in Italian dressing or just use Montreal. Good morning, Brian. You know what Barefoot never did? Boil ribs. Probably not. I wonder. Let's Google it. Barefoot Contessa boiled ribs. Let's see if anything comes up. Barefoot Contessa. This is from barefootcontessa.com. Foolproof ribs with barbecue sauce. Nope, she's just throwing them in the oven. And then grilling. So no, Barefoot Contessa, not boiling ribs. Card Collector's here. He says, kind of want to rip some wax today. Do it. You know, when it comes to wax, I'm not a fan. Like, I'm not going to rip wax unless it's Top Series 1. And I rip wax. I enjoy ripping wax. It's just price dependent. You know, Bowman Draft, not going to rip that wax. Top Series 1, I'll rip it. But when other people say, should I rip some wax? Yes. I love spending other people's money. Do it. Rip that wax. John says garlic salt better than garlic powder in this case. Card Collector says no spices is wild. Are you guys British? No. A steak? No. Steaks do not need spices. Johnny Boy Cards in the house. Good morning. But sometimes I do want to marinade. I'm normally not a dry rub guy. Normally I'm throw it in a plastic baggie with the wet stuff. But a good steak does not need any type of spice or seasoning or marinade or anything. Zach says, you only break wax. Learned that yesterday when LRS was ignored like some longtime hobby influencers avoid showering. Merle says, so now I am looking to organize my Twins cards. I want to get each Twins card from Topps flagship for each year. Looks like I need a ton from the 60s and 70s. You might find some in 99centcards.com. Check that out. Cooter says, good morning. Stukes is correct. It's windy in Oklahoma because Texas sucks and Kansas blows. But Cooter's here. John says, if you watch the Texas Roadhouse grillers, they just ply salt onto the steaks the entire time. I'm surprised they don't have salt showers over the grill. Ugh. Hate salt. Ugh. Card Collector says, just some advice when you're doing a dry rub, you don't really need salt depending on the seasonings you use. I was following the Barefoot Contessa. She told me salt. She was wrong. Some seasonings already have salt. So I was just using this seasoning was not like, I don't think there was any salt in any of the seasonings that was in this recipe. Coffee, nope. Brown sugar, nope. Black pepper, nope. And I think that's all I used. Oh, garlic powder. Merle says it's tough when you aren't satisfied from a rub. But Unicorn Cupcake says to Merle, I have about a dozen Topps Venezuelan 1968 cards if you have any interest of the Twins. Zach says Frank Thomas player lots for Keating. There you go, 99centcards.com. Mr. Archer, good morning. Merle says Venezuelan cards sound like something out of Star Trek. Venezuelan. Venezuelan. Merle, Unicorn Cupcake. Hit him up. I took the low roller scratcher typing class. Zach says, for those that list player lots, some unsolicited advice. Take a picture of the back of the cards. Yeah, I don't have time for that. People who collect players will have a better chance looking up by card number versus front pick. I didn't think about that, though. I didn't think about that. That is good advice. That is good advice. I'll do that for small player, like 25 player lots, depending on it. You know, if it's Michael Jordan, I'll do it. But if it's Frank Thomas, I probably won't do it for like a larger player lot. If it's an 8-count player lot, it's pretty quick. But those 25, flipping over 25 cards doubles my time. Unicorn Cupcake is the future. Klein is the past. Give Unicorn his wrench and do it fast. You forgot your Sosa reference. Card Collector says, for all collectors watching this, what's the worst thing a card collector can do as a hobbyist in the hobby? Well, I think the worst thing in the hobby is steal or scam. I think that's the worst thing. Christian says, good morning, everyone. Who's ready for the biggest regular season NFL game since 1967? Let's go Lions. I'll be rooting for the Lions today. Who are they playing? It doesn't matter who they're not playing the Bears. So I'll hell, if they were playing the Bears, I'd probably be rooting for the Lions. Stuke says, also know what you were listing. Don't call a base card a Tiffany card or a 1990 Fleer a Canadian Fleer unless it actually is. That's a good point on if you're listing in Cardi the Pro, for some reason, the AI thinks all 1990 Fleer is the Fleer Canadian. And I got caught up with that. I think the first time I listed a 90 Fleer through Cardi the Pro, I wasn't paying attention. It's like, oh, yep, that's 1990 Fleer. And then somebody, I think they messaged me. They're like, hey, this isn't the Canadian version. And I'm like, of course it's not the Canadian version. And then I looked at the listing. Oh, fuck. Yeah. So if you're using Cardi the Pro, be wary of that. And I get caught up, quite a bit because I'm just going through real quickly. It's like, shit, that's not the right card. Orlando says, good point, Stukes. Zach says, strikes using that wind to blow in some outstanding points. I think he meant Stukes. Unicorn Cupcake says, while I fully agree with your support for me, I am gunning for Keating Wrench instead. Mark's here. Good morning. Unicorn Cupcake says, I will never misinform you, unlike other wrenches. Cough, cough. Keating Wrench is like Thor's hammer. Zach says, Keating's wrench stays. The only person who would get his wrench is me. I had a wrench, an early adopter, then both started giving out wrenches like Bitcoin advice, and it all crumbled down. Yeah, I gave everybody a wrench, and then that did not end well. So then I took away everybody's wrench. Orlando says, you deserve a wrench, Unicorn, but puts pressure to deliver awesome chat like Keating. Unicorn Cupcake says, what did you do to lose the prestigious wrench status? Zach says, we all lost it. Bo didn't want to punish a few abusers, so he punished us all. See, that's what happens. If one person, it affects everybody. It's like a team. We are a team. And if one or two let us down, it lets the whole team down and we all lose. And that's what happened with the wrenches. Maniacal. Wrenchgate 2022. Zach says, I'm old enough to remember the wrath on dealers not putting a price on things. Do we hold the same anger for eBay sellers that don't adjust prices in the market, or do they get a pass? They get a pass. You can price as long as you price it, you can price it for whatever you want. You walk on by. I don't have a problem with people overpricing things at a card show as long as it's priced. Because I know if I look down and say it's Cub, like the only thing I want personally for my own collection is Cubs cards. Say it's a, I want to look back here. What's in there? Say it's a Chris Bryant Aflac auto. And I got that at a better market price. I paid $200 for that one. At one point they were at one point when I was looking, they were $500, but I'm sure they were higher than that. And 200 is probably high right now. I don't know what they've recently sold for, but let's just say $200 is the fair market price. If I go up to a showcase at a card show and there's no price, I'm going to be annoyed. But if there's a $500 sticker on it, I'm just going to be like, oh, we're not even close. We're not even close. I'm not even going to ask is there any room to move on that, because my price point's like I'd pay up to $200. But if it's marked at $500, I'll just walk on by. But that's on a dealer. He priced it. I don't care if it's priced too high, and I certainly don't care if it's priced too low. If it's only $100, hey, here's $100 bill. Look, we don't have to negotiate. It goes both ways. John says, well, the second you confuse loose with lose, you're out of the running for a wrench. Standards matter. Let's see. Unicorn Cupcake says, we are the typo police. Standard is set. Nope, standard is at. John says, eBay auctions are the electronic equivalent of not pricing your cards. Yeah, that's a good point. Let the market decide. And usually the market decides cheap, cheap, cheap. But hey, sales, sales, sales. Peeps is here. Good morning. Card Collector says, eBay and whatnot are horrible for pricing. John says, no, there's a large percentage of people that are illiterate enough that they confuse the two. Card Collector says, but you can also get cards for cheap. Peep says, bringing the NFL rhymes. John says, I'm the king of typos, except when it comes to losers and loosers. That's fair. We all have our specialties. John says, Bo worried about the wallpaper before they build the walls in regards to the Bears. Keating, is there a monthly fee for Pirate Ship, or does it require minimum usage? No. Oh, man, no. Pirate Ship, you just go to pirateship.com. Boom. You just need a login. No subscription, and you get those cheaper postage. Pirateship.com. Check it out. If I'm not using eBay, I use Pirate Ship, which is very rarely, but like sometimes, like my best friend just had a baby. Well, his wife had a baby, but he helped create that baby. And so we sent, baby shit to them, not literally baby shit, but, stuff, toys and stuff. So print the label, I use Pirate Ship. Any eBay sale, that's using eBay postage, same price. Peep says, someone start beatboxing for Keating. Card Collector says, UFC for me in terms of watching. UFC, baseball, and college football. Merle says, the typo police will be in effect come name that player this Friday. Yep, you got to spell it correctly on Friday for name that player. Last week, and it might only it might only be 1 week. But sometimes it's getting to the point where it's like, well, we let this go. Are we going to let this go? Well, this and this. I had a standard set. So it's like, all right, you know what? Next week, we got to spell it correctly. Which I think adds a level of difficulty. You don't have to be speed. Like, you have to have knowledge more so than speed. Like, you don't want to do typos. And I understand typos, what you mean, but you're just trying to get it. You're trying to beat the clock. So we want to take the clock out of the equation. We want accuracy over speed. So we'll see how it plays out this Friday. Name that player. This Friday. And then the following Friday, we will not have Hobby Evolution because I'll be at Cubs Convention, baby. Mr. Archer says, my number 1 ranked Vols whipped Calipari in Arkansas yesterday. Specialties just made my list. Brian says, did you use salted caramel coffee? Nope, just regular coffee. Just regular coffee. College sports are gay, says Unicorn Cupcake. College sparts. Oh, that must be different than sports. John says, Coach Cal needs 1 or 2 more years of Walmart money to win the chip. Christian says everything you just described about the Bears is the same as the old Lions for the last 40 years. Yeah, the Lions were in similar spot, like just making boneheaded moves, keeping a shitty GM. Yeah, feel you. Sean's here. What's up? I'm excited about that FCS title game. 2 great teams. Go Cubs. They need to make another move, though. That's a good point. I still think if the Cubs did not make another move this offseason, I still think the Cubs could contend for the division. Now, I think this roster as it is right now, and there will be more moves to be made, but this roster right now, I think could still win what they win last year, 83, 84 games. I think it's 85 wins, and I think 85 wins can win the NL Central. It's a bad NL Central. So, I think 85 wins the division. Might get you an early exit in the playoffs. But I do think the Cubs are going to make some more moves. I'm really happy with Kyle Tucker. That trade was great. Hopefully, I think there's basically 5 top free agents on the market. I think the Cubs will get one of those 5. It's Roki Sasaki and Jack Flaherty pitchers. It's Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, and who's the fifth? I can't remember who the 5th was. It's an outfield. Oh, Santander, Anthony Santander. Well, the Cubs don't need him because he's an outfielder. Plenty of outfielders. Bregman. Outside chance I could see the Cubs signing Bregman only if he goes unsigned into like spring training and he signs one of those like prove it deals like Cody Bellinger, like the Cubs signed with Cody Bellinger. I don't think that's going to happen with Bregman. I think he does sign here in the next month. But if it drags out, I could see the Cubs getting, somewhat of a sweetheart deal, like a 1 year with all these options laid in. But I think that's highly unlikely. Who was the other? Pete Alonso? Again, only chance is if there's some type of sweetheart deal. But with Alonso, he's first base and DH. Well, the Cubs have those positions filled. Third base is a question. Third base is the only question mark. They're going to try Matt Shaw, but they need a veteran there. Like, okay, if Matt Shaw doesn't pan out, we need a backup, at least a veteran backup that can. And that's what I thought they were going to get Josh Rojas. And he ended up signing a 1-year deal with the White Sox. So Alonso would require a little strategery because you can't just move Michael Busch to third base. He's a terrible third baseman. That would not be good. And you need Michael Busch in that lineup. And then, so I see that highly unlikely to get Alonso. And then the 2 starting pitchers, I think it all comes down to Roki Sasaki. And the Cubs are among the top, 6 teams. So Roki Sasaki has decided has 6 teams as his finalists. And we'll find out here in 2 weeks who he chooses. And I don't think the Cubs will sign. I don't think he's going to want to go to the Cubs. And that leaves Jack Flaherty. And I think that's the most likely scenario of a free agent the Cubs sign is starting pitcher in Jack Flaherty. I think it's going to be the most likely is either Roki Sasaki or Jack Flaherty. I think it's kind of unlikely that Sasaki comes to Chicago and the Cubs sign Jack Flaherty. So that's what I think the Cubs will do. And there still could be a trade because there's just not much on the market. I think there's still going to be some type of infield veteran that they sign, or not sign, but they trade for. The bench right now, as is, the Chicago Cubs bench is absolutely awful and unproven. And so that's what I think changes the most. The lineup is pretty much set. The lineup is set. I think there's going to be a piece to the rotation added, maybe another reliever, although they just signed, what's his name? Tealbar. Possibly a reliever is signed, a veteran reliever. So, but I still think, as is, the Cubs could still win the division. They've made enough moves based on what they had. They basically have the same team as last year, minus Bellinger, but plus Tucker, and Tucker's a big improvement over Bellinger. John says, don't discount the Wayne Fonts era. That was the era I grew up in. Sean says, first time checking out the show. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you jumping on. Isn't FCS the T-ball of college football? No, it's not. Klein loves college athletics of the feminine variety. Can't stop watching it, I'm told. Already looking forward the post-card collector era of hobby evolution. Sean says, it is, but FCS is very good. It is good football. Card Collector says, I love spice on steak. Elevate that already amazing natural flavor. See, I am typically anti-spice. And A1 is the devil. Ugh. That's just ruining a good steak. Or maybe you got a bad steak. John loves dry rubs. Rendezvous in Memphis being my favorite. Sean says, I get ripped, but I do love A1 on my steak. Oh, there it is. Oh, Sean. John says, I just dropped the McCormick on my ribeyes. Fillets get a little sea salt. Hamburgers get black pepper and garlic salt. I love black pepper. I load up black pepper in my hamburgers. Basically, black pepper is the only spice I put in my hamburger. Sometimes I'll if I get tired of the same old hamburger, I'll do. I bought some seasoning salts in Germany, of all places. I saw them in a meat market we were at. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I've used a couple of those on my burgers and on some meat. It's pretty good. John says, I only use garlic powder on pizza. Garlic powder, by the way, is my favorite topping on pizza. Interesting. Stuke says FCS is becoming the minor leagues for FBS with NIL. Cam Ward started in FCS. Really? Where did Cam Ward, because where was he at before Miami? Was it like Washington State, which is bowl division? Cam Ward. I did not realize Cam Ward started in the FCS. Cam Ward. Let's see. Previously played for Incarnate Word, winning the 2020 Jerry Rice Award. Wow. I did not realize Cam Ward started at Incarnate Word. There's some great players that started in FCS. My boy Rodney Harrison, a Western Illinois Leatherneck, was in the FCS. Greatest FCS players of all time. Who else played football in FCS? Joe Flacco. You know, Phil Simms played in the FCS. Morehead State. I didn't realize that. Joe Flacco, was he Delaware? Yes. Joe Flacco and Rich Gannon were both playing for the Fightin' Blue Hens in Delaware. Let's see. Of course, Carson Wentz and Trey Lance were Bison, who were playing in the national championship game at North Dakota State. I wouldn't put Carson Wentz or Trey Lance in the greatest of all time, though. Of course, Buck Buchanan, and they have the Defensive Player of the Year award named after Buck Buchanan. Steve McNair was an FCS guy. That first list is pretty shitty, because I know there's a lot better. Of course, Jerry Rice, Walter Payton are FCS players. They didn't have Jerry Rice or Walter Payton on that list, but they had Carson Wentz and Trey Lance. Porter says, good morning. Just stay out of the kitchen. That's probably the best advice we've got this morning. Zach says, I think current country artists cut a song in the studio and picture how it will sound at a Texas Roadhouse. If it accompanies salted steaks well, then print the record. The Texas Roadhouse audience. Peeps is here. What's up? John says, I'm imagining all of those little Venezuelan kids gambling their pesos, sharding cases of Vennies in the 60s. Zach says, yes, 6 to 8 counts would work. Larger ones would be buyer beware. That is on them. I like it. John says, I want to give a shout out to Stooks and Peeps, 2 great Northern Plains collectors who do it for the right reason without gambling. There you go, Stooks and Peeps. Merle says, Vikes playing the Lions tonight. A little Sunday night football. East Coast Tom is in the house. Good morning. Merle is here. Skoll. Peep says, I don't have enough pesos to gamble. John says, the NFL having division rivals in week 17 is just another reason the NFL is undefeated over the last 40 years. Zach says, how did Bo know which Division 5 high school game was happening, but didn't realize the Vikings and Lions played today? Because I only follow the Bears in the NFL. I don't follow any other team in the NFL. So I have no idea. And half the time, I don't even know who the Bears are playing. It's just like, I know the Bears play today. I don't know who they play, but they're on, and I'm going to watch it. Zach says, worst coaching possible, blanket discipline instead of dealing with problem. Venezuelan pesos, very rare. Sean says, I hope the Lions win as a Packers fan, but the Vikings have had a heck of a year. I am definitely rooting for the Lions. Definitely rooting for the Lions. Outliers, says Zach. Boulevard, says John. Tom says, Oak Creek show yesterday was crazy well attended. Met Zach and Porter, Mike Renicky, and a bunch of others. Very nice. Very nice. Zach says, great seeing you, Tom, and thanks again. JK Cards is here. Good morning. John says, pirate ship is my second favorite hobby hack behind thermal printers. I thermal printed myself a mock versus neck. Oh, a mock V-neck. I thermal printed myself a mock V-neck and wore it to dinner last night. Zach says, can I put the small package in my mailbox to ship, or do I still need to go to the post office? As long as it has a label, you can put it in your mailbox. JK says, out of curiosity, how many U-Hauls have you rented in your day for collection buys? Do you always have to get one for your Goodwill pallets, or can you fit it in your cars? That's the best part of having an SUV. I have not rented a U-Haul for any collection buy. I think every collection I've bought I've been able to fit in my SUV. There's been a couple where I've had to like stack boxes to the ceiling on the front seat, taking up and not being able to see out of any of my mirrors, with the exception of my driver's side mirror. I've had to make 2 trips. My pallets all fit in the SUV, so I've not bought a huge collection. I did see there's a $50,000 collection in Dallas that is like, and it's not just junk. Like there's an unopened box of 82 tops. A bunch of like junk wax boxes, but there's like good shit in there. It's on Facebook Marketplace in the Dallas area. It's like 3 million cards. And that was like, I am like thinking, fly to Dallas, rent a U-Haul, drive back. That would be one of those. That would be a fun. I really want. That's like on my bucket list to buy a 3 million card collection of like good, like, but I don't want it to be all junk wax, right? It's like there's got to be good stuff in there. So if you're on Facebook check out Facebook Marketplace Dallas. I don't know if it might have gotten snatched up because there was some good stuff in there. And I feel that like 50,000, a lot of money, but for 3 million cards and there's a lot of good stuff. Like I'm kind of eyeballing what's in there. It's like, oh, that's 50, 50, 50, 50, a couple hundred here, a couple hundred there. Like it's going to take you a while. That's a grind. But I think it would be a lot of fun. But no, I'm not buying it. Let's see. John says, all my racks go through pirate ship. Card Collector says, glad you brought up the whole friends kids thing. If you don't plan on having kids but have a huge collection, would you just give it to your friend's kid or a relative? That's something I still don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't have anybody that would be like, oh, yep, when I'm gone, they get my collection. I have like 74 nieces and nephews. Not really, but probably close. My nieces and nephews are all older. My nieces and nephews are now having kids or have kids. Shit, one of my nieces has 2 kids. Or wait, no, one of my great nieces has 2 kids. So I am a great uncle at the tender age of 42. I had to think of how old I was. So, but none of them are into cards. I don't really have any cousins that are into cards. I have distant cousins. Like, I actually have a distant cousin that lives here in Madison who comes out to the show, big time collector. But I don't have anybody that's like, oh, yep, they're getting my collection. Card Collector says, I've always wondered who will get my collection. Sorry about the curiosity on the morbid topic. And it is morbid. And I hate talking about, like, I hate when it comes up like, we're just holding on to these cards. They're not, forever. Like, it's so morbid. I don't even like talking about it. But it is something that we do need to figure out at some point. Is Card Collector AI? He says, the fuck? I'm not AI. I just type fast. I used to work in an office. John says, communication is the key. Typos are allowed. I just don't know what someone is saying. Looser or loser. Both are offensive in different ways. What about loosey-goosey? Brian says, when is Hobby Evolution turning into a daily whatnot show with card auctions? Never say never, but probably never. Hit up 99centcards.com. Zach says, Bo's prediction on sports is like the Jim Cramer curse. Hey, one time I was really good with my Cubs predictions. I'm still leaning on that. Side note, I think my son drove 4 hours to come home this weekend solely to steal my charging blocks. He even took the one of my lighted magnifier in the basement. Sean says, the Cubs need to either get Sasaki or Alonso. Pitching would help more, but Bush is not a starting first baseman. Oh, I think he is. I think Michael Bush is going to be there for a while. And hot take, I'd rather have Michael Bush at first base than Pete Alonso. Hot take. John says, trying to give people something to read while you guan about the Cubs. Peep says, I hear the Cubs are looking to add Marco Luciano or else. Hey, as I was going through a box yesterday, I found a bunch of Marco Luciano cards, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to put a Marco Luciano lot. Let's see how this does. Not well, I suppose. Dissecting Cubs roster moves is exciting as Kamala Harris's concession speech. Zach says, Chris Bryant back to the Cubs. That auto is going up. That ain't happening either. Stuke says, after being in Detroit for so many years, would like to see the Lions get one for their fans. Absolutely. Absolutely. John says, I've had robocall more captivating than talk about the Cubs' 6th starter. Oh, I haven't talked about the 6th starter yet, but we can. Jordan Wicks. Let's see. Traded Hayden Wesneski. He was part of the deal to Houston along with Cam Smith for Kyle Tucker. But you got Javier Assad. If the Cubs do sign another starting pitcher, then Javier Assad is probably going to be that 6th starter. So there you go, John. Card Collector. LOL, you guys aren't getting Sasaki. Come on, man. Let's be real. I think it's more likely that Jack Flaherty goes to the Cubs than Roki Sasaki, but I think there's an outside chance that Roki Sasaki signs with the Cubs. It's probably going to be the Dodgers because the Dodgers sign everybody. But who's it's the Padres. I think it's all West Coast. It's West Coast and the Cubs. The 6 finalists for Roki Sasaki: Padres, Giants, Dodgers, Angels, and Mariners, maybe, and then the Cubs. Moncada at 3rd and schedule the parade. That's kind of been. You haven't heard much about Yohan Moncada to the Cubs, but I have one guy in my Cubs chat that he's on the Moncada train. He really wants Moncada. Sean says Flaherty is fine as an upgrade. Yeah, I think there's definitely got to be another starting pitcher in there. John says Lions fans are modern day serfs. They are being subservient. John says, imagine having Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson at 0 rings. Tom says, just got back from walking my dog. Bo just finished talking about the Cubs. Leon Perrins is the only acceptable post-grilling additive to a steak. I'm a fan. Adobo. I put that shit on everything. Who is Cam Ward? Cam Ward is likely to be the first quarterback drafted in the NFL this season. Probably the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, for that matter. Butter is acceptable after grilling. Oh, that's a good point. Butter right at the end. Put it on as the steaks are just finishing up. Melt that butter on the steak. It's a good point, Merle. Point for you. Max says, methinks people need to reassess where they are getting their meat. All the steak should need is a little salt and pepper to create the crust. And I agree. Sometimes I like to spice it up and put a little seasoning up, but it doesn't need it. If you have a good steak, you don't need any spices or seasoning. Charlie Ward says Unicorn Cupcake. McNair, Walter. Cam Ward is a bum, says Max. I'd season a piece of Japanese Wagyu. I like flavor. There's enough flavor in a piece of meat. Max says, yes, butter okay. Rice? Good morning, Midwest Tom. Max, he's on a movement. John says, Bo's still suffering from a hangover from the September Super Bowl parade. Brian says, I had multiple Australian A5 Wagyu steaks over the holidays. Nothing wrong with a compound butter and seasoning. Zach says, I just use whatever my parents have in their house to season the steaks. I never grill. When he says SUV, he means crossover. Tom says, good morning. How was Jeremy World yesterday? John says, there's nothing sporty about a Ford Edge, and it's a utilitarian use up for debate. Hey, I can fit 300,000 baseball cards in my Ford Edge. Max says it was okay, not crazy, but pickups were decent, hit my numbers, so all was good. No witches, though. John says, I dream about my trip to U-Haul to rent a truck for a collection someday. I'm with you. Bucket list item. Christian says, for the benefit of Bo, winner of Lions-Vikings gets number 1 NFC seed. Loser is a number 5 seed with 14 wins. Insanity. Isn't it crazy? It's the NFL is top heavy and bottom heavy. There's no in between. You either suck really bad or you're really good. John says, as Amy's second husband, I'll have a lot of influence as to who gets Bo's collection. Junk wax is good stuff. Quit mocking it. You selling junk wax in 2020 was part of the reason you created numbers to allow you to go full time. Hey, and I still sell junk wax. I wonder where's my phone? I've probably sold a junk wax card in the last few minutes. Let's see. No, maybe not. 86 Fleer Reggie Jackson. That's borderline junk. 86 is pretty junky. But at 86 Fleer Reggie Jackson. 85 Fleer Update Lonnie Smith. Any like smack dab, no doubter junk wax that have sold in the last 24 hours? Doesn't look like it. Junk. Because it's junk. Nobody wants it. Where are we at? Merle says, don't forget about your Uncle Merle that collects cards. He would even keep up your store and YouTube channel. Long live 1 million Cubs. Brian says, bury the cards with him. Johnny M says, got my eye on a collection with Mahomes Optic rated rookie PSA 9. He's at 2,000. I'm at 1,500. We'll see what happens. Johnny M says, my wife will probably just dump them all in the trash with a smile on her face. Christian says, you can leave the collection to me and I will continue the mission. Donald says, hope Bo will start doing the YouTube live auction again. Maybe I will. I've got to put some shit together. If I did that again. But I would like to do another one because that was fun. Zach says, I've got directions on our collection if Porter and I die suddenly. Bo, don't be afraid to write something down or create a trust. If not, some dude will raid your estate sale like you did. Bargain Boxer says, anybody but the Chiefs. Newsflash, all the Cubs starters are considered sixth starters outside of the North Side bubble. Card Collector says, don't forget my Yankees. Yankees are not in the mix. Yankees are not in the mix for Roki Sasaki, who's, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but let's see. Roki Sasaki finalists. 5 finalists have emerged. Let's see. All right, so here we go. Roki Sasaki. Let's see. Ken Rosenthal says there's 5 finalists. Dodgers, Padres, Rangers, Mets, Yankees. Interesting. MS, okay, so Yankees back in the mix. So yet, like yesterday morning, it was all the West Coast teams, and the Yankees were not. Dodgers, Mets, Yankees, Padres, and Rangers are the obvious. So this is all from Ken Rosenthal. So this is all from one source. All right. So we'll see. Hopefully he's wrong. John says, who has the best rotation in baseball? Probably the Dodgers. I don't know. Zach says Dodgers. John says, just looked up Luciano. I have a higher career WAR. What is old Marco Luciano's? Marco Luciano. I mean, he's only played one season, so minus 0.4 WAR. He's had a whopping 115 at-bats in his career. Actually, his career is minus 0.3. In a whopping 115 at-bats, he's played in a total of 41 career games, played in 27 games this past year, but he was a below zero average player. Tom says the Nationals in 3 years. Bargain Boxers counting down the days, 206 until the National. John says, when a steak is grilled in butter, that I'm not sure we need to add more, not turning it away, but not seeking it out. People also should remember each steak requires different attention and additives. That's a good point. Porter says, maybe you could adopt a kid a la Matt Gates gets, to whom you can bequeath your collection. Max says, idiots, if you're buying a piece of Wagyu and then season it, go grab a steak at Goodwill and season it if you want seasoning. Unicorn Cupcake says, bless the beasts and children. Tom says, great 70s B movie at Unicorn Cupcake. Zach says, you were going to make an insane profit on that Fisk baseball card mag card. What's it up to? Is it $4.20? I thought 99 cents would be an insane. Where are my listings? Active listings. The Dale Murphy's been bid up too. Is this like a rare? Like, did they produce a lot less of these baseball cards? It is from 1993, so I'm sure that the print run on these magazines is a lot less than those from like 1990 to 1992. Let's look up Carlton Fisk. So I'm glad I auctioned them off, because shit, I would have been happy with $1.75 buy it now. So those are some surprises, I guess. I think a couple of them do not have any bids, but I did see the Dale Murphy got a couple bids yesterday, and the Fisk being bid up over $4 was a shocker. Wow, it's up to $5. Let's see. Let's look. 1993 baseball card magazine. Let's see. Wow, $5. That's crazy. What else did I have? I think I have them right here. Let's see. Dale Murphy's at $3.25. George Brett's only at 99 cents. Eddie Murray doesn't have any bids. Nolan Ryan doesn't have any bids. Jack Morris, no bids. Dave Winfield, no bids. But for some reason, the Dale Murphy and Carlton Fisk are highly sought after. John says, who is Dan's Bander 84 on TCDB, and why have they sent 3 friend requests in one morning? Dan's Bander. Don't know. Did Marco get a Sammy Sosa skin change? He's not Italian. I know my WAR is 0.0. What is Steve Bartman's WAR? 0.0. Bartman would be level if it weren't for his fielding WAR. Max says, depends on the team, Merle. Marlins positive, Cubs negative. Porter says, I don't think you're allowed to say Luciano and whopping in the same statement. Merle says, true to Max. Max says, should I cancel my bids on the Fisk so the whiner can get his card? Carlton Fisk, there you go. Bid it up. That's what I had for today. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit up my eBay store, 99centcards.com. I think over 500 auctions are now live. I'm going to be putting some more auctions live tonight. In fact, I'm going to make my mushroom coffee. Then I'll come and put, I might do like 500 auctions tonight. I might just go to my what's ending today from buy it now. There's probably not 500 decent cards that I want to throw at auction, but I'm going to see what's up there and might throw a big amount of auctions in my eBay store. A lot of player lots were added this weekend, so check those out. 99centcards.com. Buy 7 or more at regular price. Buy it now items. You'll save 25% off at checkout over at 99centcards.com. John says, cancel the APB on Dan's Bander. He wants to sell me 273 92-93 Upper Deck Hockey. That does not sound like a good deal. Go Bears. Go Bears. Apologies for putting an apostrophe on wants. All right. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit up my eBay store, 99centcards.com. Have a wonderful Sunday. Go Bears, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.